So at first glance, music theory can actually be pretty intimidating, and I don't blame people for seeing it that way, especially people that are just newcoming musicians with no musical background whatsoever. But rest assured you, this video is going to be for the absolute beginners, people that, like, even if you just found an instrument literally today, this video will help you, and I promise you that you will have something to take away from this. And I'm going to explain everything as best as I can with you know, images and everything, just so you guys can get a real good grip on the basics of music theory. And with the whole purpose of the basics of music theory, this video is to help you basically have a starting point of where to start with, you know, where to start with music. But without further ado, let's get into FL Studio and let's get started on music theory. Alright, so let's get started. In Western music, we use a system known as equal temperament, and what that means is that we divided an octave within equal intervals, and that is how we have the 12 tones. So those 12 tones are named after the first 7 letters of the alphabet. Starting with the white key, you have right here A, then you have B, then you have C, then D, then E, then F, and then G. If you also notice, in between there are these black keys, and what these black keys are called, they're called accidentals. The way that they get their name is based on the context of the music you're playing, but for sake of simplicity, if you're going up, it's going to be sharp. If it's going down, it is going to be flat. And the other way that they get their name is relevance to a white key. So right here, remember how I said this is A and this is B. In between right here, you have A sharp, B flat. Here you have C sharp, D flat. Here you have D sharp and then E flat. Here you have F sharp and G flat. And then you have G sharp and A flat. Sorry, there you go. There are instances where a white key would be given a sharp or flat name, but I'm not going to get into that for the sake of simplicity. So moving on to intervals that I want to talk about, I'm only going to be talking about 3 types of intervals, really, because you don't need to know the other ones at this moment, but I will eventually have a video that will go more in depth with intervals. But for right now, you need to know a minor second, a major second, and an octave. Starting off with an octave, what an octave is, it's simply just one note. You take one note played either higher or lower. So in this case, an F. If I want to move an octave from F going up, that it would just be that other F. So now moving on to minor and major second. Starting with, I'm going to start over here on my C. A minor second is a semitone or a half step, and a major second is a whole step or a whole tone. I'm going to be going by half step and whole step for the rest of this video, so just know a minor second is a half step and a major second is a whole step. Starting over here on my C, if I want to move a half step from C, it's going to the very next note. That's a half step. A half step from C sharp would be D. A half step from D would be D sharp. A half step from D sharp would be E. A half step from E would be F. You get the picture. Now, starting again on C, if I want to do whole steps, all it is just moving 2. So if I want to go from C, if I want to go whole step from C, that's going to take me to D. If I want to move a whole step from D, that's going to take me to E. If I want to move a whole step from E, that's going to take me to F sharp. From F sharp, it's going to take me to G sharp, etc., etc. The reason why you need to know these specific intervals, well, especially whole step and half step, is because that is where your major and minor scales are going to come into play, as well as your chords. So I'm going to move on to the next section, which is going to be the major and minor scale.
Disappointment in the game of life.
Alright, so moving on to scales, I'm going to start off with major scales to first. But first, let me also define what is a scale. So what a scale is basically an arrangement of notes in an ascending and descending order. The way you make a scale is with a certain pattern of whole steps and half steps, and it depends on what scale you are. So in this instance, we're using the major scale. I would start off with my root note, and then I would use the pattern whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That is the formula for a major scale. So starting on C, if I go a whole step from C, that takes me to D. I go a whole step from D, that's going to take me to E. A whole step from E, that takes me to F. Sorry, a half step, I'm sorry. A half step from E, that takes me to F. A whole step from F, that takes me to G. A whole step from G, that takes me to A. A whole step from A, that takes me to B. And then a half step from B, that takes me back to my root note C. And that is a C major scale. Now, the interesting thing about the pattern for scales is that they translate across all other keys. So remember, you can literally make any one of these keys, any one of these notes, your root note. You can do that and you can build a scale off of it. So let's say I want to make D major, same pattern, but just starting on D. What if I want to do E? Same pattern, go to E. Same whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern. What if I want to do G sharp? I could do that too. So you pretty much get the gist of it. Alright, now moving on to minor scales. Minor scales function the same way in the sense where they use a pattern, but the pattern is slightly different. So starting on my root note here, I'm gonna make the scale C minor. So starting from C, I'm gonna move up a whole step, then I'm gonna move up a half step, and then I'm gonna move up a whole step, and then I'm gonna move up another whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, and then another whole step. And that is the formula for a minor scale. So it's whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. That is the formula for a minor scale. And just like a major scale, you can take that same pattern and place it over any starting note, any root note. D minor. E minor, which I know is popular with a lot of mellow songs. I know E minor tends to be one of the more popular ones. G minor, one of my personal favorite minor scales. But yeah, so that is the formula for a minor scale, and let me move on to the Roman numeral system. As you can see, I already have the scale C major here just to make things easier and faster. You now notice that there are Roman numerals under them. Those Roman numerals indicate the grade value of the note in the scale, along with what chords you're going to be using. So if you notice there's capital and lowercase, and then there's one with a circle. What that means is if it's capitalized, that means it's major. If it's lowercase, that means it's minor. And if it has a circle around it, that means it's diminished. So you have major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Now in a minor scale, it has its own unique Roman numeral system. The rules are generally the same. The only difference is the degree values change. So starting on my root note, that would be minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major. The reason why you want to learn this number system is because it makes it a lot easier when it comes to transposing songs and also having chord progressions, which I will get into the next section. But for right now, really memorize that number system. Write it down if you need to. I promise you, it's gonna help you a lot when it comes to not only understanding how to do chord progressions, and transposing, but it's also going to help you a lot with with doing improv if that's your thing, which me I'm a personal fan of doing. So trust me, that number system will be a lifesaver. Alright, so moving on to the final part of this video, I'm going to be talking about chords. I'm only going to be talking about major and minor chords to keep things simple, but eventually I will talk about extended chords, sus chords, augmented chords, things like that. So for right now, what you need to know is a major chord and minor chord, they both have similar patterns. A major chord has a 4-3 pattern, while a minor chord has a 3-4 pattern. So this is what that means. For a major chord, I'm going to start with my root note, which is going to be my C. That 4-3 pattern, it's simply semitones. So when I go from for a major chord, the formula for a major chord 4-3, I start at C and I go up 4 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from there I go up 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3, or or half steps, semitones and half steps, same thing. So that would be a C major chord. Now, what if I want to do that with a, it's the same concept with a D, same thing. Start with your root note on your D and add that 4-3 pattern, and that is your formula for a major chord. For a minor chord, it's reversed. So instead of 4-3, you're gonna have 3-4. The other thing that you can also do, a little shortcut, would be when you have your major chord, just go ahead. Oh my bad. Just go ahead and take that middle note. Go ahead and drop it down 1, and that's how you have your minor chord. There's your D minor. Now a C minor chord. Same thing. Oh, excuse me. Same thing. So C minor, and that you just basically use the 3-4 and the 4-3 pattern on top of any root note, and that is how you build a major or minor chord. Alright, so I have the chords for the major scale laid out. I'm going to be in the key of C major here. But remember that number system that I told you about? I'll actually have it down here just so it's easier to follow along. But that is where you get the chords for your major scale. So you have right here major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, and then major. And that is going to translate across all other major keys as well. So you see D major, E major, how about A flat major? Alright, so as you see here, I have a chord progression. I know my chords look a little bit weird, but don't worry, I'll teach you how to do stuff like this in another video. But for right now, just know I'm still in the key of C major. This is my C major. This is my F major, going back to C, then going to G major, and then going back to C. So in terms with the Roman numeral system, that would be 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. So when you memorize it like that, this is what you can do with it. So in C major, this is how it sounds. So if I have that pattern, that 1, 4, 1, 5, 1 pattern, and I think of it like that rather than thinking C major, F major, C major, G, and instead of thinking about it like that, if I think about it in the sense with Roman numerals, I could translate that to another key. I could transpose it to another key. So having that 1, 4, 1, 5, 1 pattern, I could duplicate that on, let's say right here, the key of D major. And A flat major. What about A major? So you see, that's what that number system is really going to help you with when it comes to transposing. When you start thinking about music in terms of numbers rather than the notes alone, it makes it a lot easier to have chord progressions and especially transpose to different keys. Because let me tell you, when you're composing music, there's going to be different times where you want to try different keys. So when you memorize it as a number, you're going to be able to do that extremely easy. So as you can see here, I have the scale of C minor set up along with the diatonic chords, like the same way that I had the major scale. So as a refresher, the Roman numeral system, remember that it works like this for minor chords, and remember that this also goes across, this is universal across all minor scales. So the way that the Roman numeral system here works is minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, and major. And then it goes back, of course, to your minor root note, just at a higher octave. And this, of course, translates across all other minor scales. So if I want to scale the chords for D minor, I would use that same Roman numeral system, just starting on my D. Let's say, okay, F minor. B minor. And then A minor. FBI, oh my god, no, that's not what I meant. Holy shit, no, oh my god. So anyways, I know this was a pretty unorthodox video and a pretty amateur video to say the least. I do want to apologize for that. I am still new at making YouTube videos like this, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a confident speaker or really a great editor. These are things that will get better over time as I do them, but for right now, thank you so much for tolerating this level of work. But either way, I do sincerely hope that, you learned something from this video and perhaps are now even inspired to dip your toe into the world of music, whether it's you want to do something as simple as just play a few songs or compose your own music or even make a career out of music. I really hope this video is a great first step for you into that world. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll go ahead and see you in the next video. Peace.